Evening. One of the largest defense contractors in Europe is making a play for a piece of this country's military market.
We, as Saab, we are prepared to do that technology transfer to Canada and support that build.
10,000 research and manufacturing jobs could land in Canada if Ottawa adds the Swedish fighter jet to its military fleet.
Something extraordinary just unfolded in global defense manufacturing, and hardly anyone saw it coming. A single announcement quietly redrew the map of NATO fighter production, shifted billions in future contracts, and placed Canada at the center of an international aviation network that had been dominated by Washington for generations. This story is not about planes alone. It is about sovereignty, economics, political leverage, and how one factory in Montreal is about to change alliances in ways that ripple across Europe, Latin America, and Asia. Stay with this, because the implications go far deeper than aircraft orders. 7 countries minimum. That was the phrase that set everything in motion. That was the number confirmed by Saab, and it landed like a shockwave across the defense industry. Canada's Gripen production facility, the $400 million plant being built by Bombardier in Montreal, will no longer serve only Canadian and Ukrainian needs. It will become a manufacturing hub for at least 7 nations, with discussions already underway across multiple continents. Poland is evaluating large-scale orders. Thailand is preparing fleet expansion. Colombia is considering additional aircraft beyond its initial 17. Peru is assessing replacements for aging fighters. Argentina is actively exploring modernization options. Those are confirmed talks, not speculation. Saab's leadership described this shift as the most significant change in NATO fighter procurement since the F-16 consortium of the 1970s. Canada is not stepping into the role of customer anymore. Canada is becoming a production center for an entire alliance, choosing industrial sovereignty over Pentagon control. And Washington is watching something it held for 70 years unravel in real time, as contracts that traditionally flowed to Lockheed Martin now point toward Montreal instead. To understand how staggering this is, start with the original assumptions.
Bombardier announced construction of the Montreal factory. Expectations were conservative. The facility would produce Canada's planned 72 fighters and Ukraine's projected 100, totaling roughly 172 aircraft over 5 to 7 years. After that, production would likely slow, shifting toward maintenance, upgrades, or limited future runs. That volume made the $400 million investment logical and manageable. It fit the model of a national procurement program with a defined lifespan. Saab shattered that model overnight. 7 or more countries changes everything. Poland alone could order between 50 and 80 aircraft if it adopts a mixed fleet strategy. Thailand already operates 12 Gripens and wants to expand to as many as 30 or 40, including EJ-230 engine upgrades. Colombia's initial purchase of 17 aircraft addresses only part of its modernization needs, with defense planners openly discussing another 20 to 30 jets over the coming decade. Peru is evaluating replacements that could involve 20 to 30 fighters. Argentina's fleet renewal discussions point toward roughly 25 aircraft. Add those numbers together and the picture becomes clear. That is already 200 to 250 jets beyond Canada and Ukraine, and Saab emphasized 7+, which means more countries are in the pipeline.
Spain is evaluating options. Germany is reconsidering mixed fleets. Portugal has expressed interest. Conservative projections now place total production between 400 and 500 aircraft over the next 10 to 15 years. That scale does not describe a factory. That describes an industry. It establishes permanent NATO fighter production capacity outside the United States, rivaling the output of the F-35 program. Canada is becoming to Gripen what America became to the F-35, except without monopoly pressure, without coercive leverage, and without ultimatums tied to foreign policy alignment. Countries are choosing Canadian-built Gripens because they want autonomy, not because they are forced into dependency. That difference matters. Employment numbers transform alongside production. Initial estimates focused on a few hundred direct jobs supporting Canadian and Ukrainian orders. 7 or more countries require sustained high-volume manufacturing. Instead of producing 20 to 30 jets per year, Montreal may need to deliver 40 to 60 annually. That means expanded assembly lines, more technicians, additional quality inspectors, and larger systems integration teams. Direct employment could rise to 1,000 or even 1,500 specialized aerospace workers. When supply chain multipliers are included, supporting roles could reach 3,000 to 4,500 positions. Total regional employment impact approaches 6,000 jobs, not hundreds, thousands. 6,000 aerospace careers reshape Quebec's economy. Families gain stability, communities grow. Technical colleges expand programs, universities invest in aerospace engineering tracks with confidence that graduates have long-term prospects. Entire regional ecosystems begin to orbit around fighter production that no longer ends when a single contract concludes. Export revenue compounds the effect. When Canada builds aircraft for 7 countries, those nations pay Canadian workers, Canadian suppliers, and Canadian firms. Instead of billions flowing to Fort Worth, money circulates through Montreal, Ontario, and across Canada's industrial network. If 400 to 500 jets cost approximately 60 to 70 billion over 15 years, and Canada captures 30 to 40% of that value domestically, that translates into 18 to 28 billion in economic activity that would not otherwise exist. That is GDP growth anchored in advanced manufacturing. Strategically, the leverage is even more powerful. 7 nations depending on Canadian production for fighter capability gives Ottawa diplomatic weight it has never held before. These countries gain operational readiness through Canadian supply chains. In return, Canada becomes indispensable in defense planning, alliance coordination, and procurement discussions. This is soft power built through industrial capability. The United States mastered this model decades ago. Canada is about to experience it from the other side. Inside Pentagon circles, reactions to Saab's announcement have reportedly been furious. Every Gripen sale from Montreal represents an F-35 contract lost. At the scale now projected, this is not a marginal setback. It threatens the economic foundation of the F-35 program itself. That program relies on international customers to distribute development costs. Fewer buyers raise per-unit prices for remaining participants, including the U.S. military. Higher costs push more countries to reconsider. As more nations leave, prices rise again. It becomes a feedback loop that undermines long-term viability. Lockheed Martin can argue stealth advantages. It can promote integration with American systems. It can emphasize performance metrics. What it cannot offer is sovereignty. It cannot promise independence from U.S. political leverage. It cannot guarantee spare parts will never become bargaining chips. It cannot assure governments that aircraft readiness will remain untouched by diplomatic disagreements. The F-35's entire value proposition assumes allies accept American dependency as part of modern air power. That assumption is collapsing. Poland's position illustrates this shift perfectly. Poland has committed billions to Fab F-35 procurement, yet it also sits closest to Russia and feels the sharpest edge of geopolitical uncertainty. American political volatility creates risk if leadership in Washington decides Poland is insufficiently aligned on unrelated issues. Logistics and maintenance pipelines become leverage tools. A mixed fleet that includes Canadian-built Gripens offers insurance. Half the Air Force remains operational, even if American support becomes conditional. 18 months ago, Canada was widely expected to default to the F-35. 12 months ago, Gripen was considered an interesting alternative with uncertain prospects. 6 months ago, Montreal's factory announcement focused on Canada and Ukraine. Now, Saab confirms 7 or more countries. The acceleration is unprecedented. The Pentagon now realizes it already happened. Canada is about to learn what it means to supply defense capability to an alliance that values independence over fear. And the catalyst for all of it traces back to a moment when political threats triggered an industrial response no one anticipated. Saab also brings real-world experience in complex international partnerships. Its collaboration with Boeing produced the T-7A Red Hawk trainer for the U.S. Air Force, proving the company understands how to share development while safeguarding core technology. Some analysts floated the idea that Germany might pivot toward the British, Italian, Japanese Global Combat Air Program. That consortium, however, is already tightly structured and shows little appetite for adding new members. France could attempt to continue FCAS independently following the model used for the Rafale, while also exploring cooperation with India on future fighter ambitions. Spain faces a more uncertain outlook after declining the F-35. FCAS became central to Madrid's modernization plans. Spain has shown interest in Turkey's Khan program, but no clear replacement strategy has emerged. As Europe wrestles with its next generation of air power, Saab is expanding its influence well beyond the continent. Germany's gradual pivot towards Sweden reflects years of frustration with FCAS governance, growing concern over industrial sovereignty, and recognition that future air combat depends as much on software, autonomy, and networked systems as on airframes. Sweden offers something few nations can replicate: decades of experience designing fighters meant to survive against technologically superior opponents. The Gripen platform was built from the ground up to operate under heavy electronic warfare, endure cyber disruption, and remain functional even when centralized infrastructure is compromised. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Which country do you think makes the next major move, and how far do you believe this realignment goes? Do you see a future where European-designed fighters finally rival American dominance? Or does this moment mark the beginning of a completely new global balance in air power? And if you enjoy deep dives like this that break down real-world defense shifts, industrial strategy, and geopolitical power plays, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the channel so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, thanks for being part of the community, and stay tuned because this story is still unfolding.